Hello and welcome back to the Book Marketing Tips and Author Success Podcast. Oh my gosh, I am so excited. How to Sell Books by the Truckload is done. It's written. Well, it's not done, but it's written. It's off to the editor. I'm sorry. I'm so excited. I forgot to introduce. Hi, this is Sam Samari and Amy Cornell and the Book Marketing Tips and Author Success Podcast. And my book is done. I'm so excited. Any author listening to this is totally going to get the jubilant nature of why it's so exciting to have your book done. So this is the 10th anniversary edition. I didn't even realize, Amy, that I've been chasing the Amazon algorithm for 10 years. Like, no wonder I'm tired, right?
100%.
I started writing these books in 2013. And believe it or not, I didn't even realize that it had been that long. I mean, 10 years just goes by in a blink of an eye. But I'm particularly excited about this book. It was difficult to write this edition in particular, mostly because so much has changed since the last edition, which was actually just a year ago, that it took me forever to write the Amazon ads chapter. And I know that everybody on the team got so sick of me. So we do something on Fridays called Good News Friday, where we share good things that happened work-related during the week and client wins and good news. And always on Good News Friday, it was just like, oh, my book's still not done yet. Oh, my book's still not done yet. But the issue that I had, and I think that many authors can probably appreciate this, was the Amazon ads section. I was going to say chapter, but it's multiple chapters. So the Amazon ads section was very difficult, not because of a lack of understanding of Amazon ads, because we manage them for clients and we do them. And Amy likes to stay blissfully sort of unaware of Amazon ads, but whether she likes it or not, she like just by osmosis, she gets, because she does
I know a few things. I said, I know a few things.
you know many, she knows many more things than she would admit. But the challenge with Amazon ads, the challenge with the Amazon ads section is that, yes, so much has changed, but there's a lot of information that's out there that is actually wrong. And not to say everybody's wrong and I'm right, just buy my book. Although that's a great tagline for when the book comes out.
We'll use that on social media.
Right. But the issue that kind of permeates the industry is wanting to trick the Amazon system. I see that a lot. Wanting to trick the Amazon system, wanting to trick the ad system. I mean, there's a lot of kind of trickery out there. And I understand that maybe that sells books and stuff and all kinds of things. But the issue with the way that Amazon ads really works, and part of the reason that this was so challenging, is that it's actually a very simple system. It seems complex. Like when you get in the back end, you're just like, oh my gosh, and I have reports and I have keywords, I have all this other stuff, but it's actually a really simple system. And so we thought that today would be a good opportunity to talk a little bit about if your Amazon ads aren't working, here are 5 reasons why. And as we go through these reasons, you'll be like, oh. So one of the biggest issues is the fact that when authors publish a book to Amazon and they throw it up in a genre and they're like, oh, this is what my book's about. The reason that their book isn't selling and their ads aren't doing well has to do with their keywords. And we're going to talk a little bit about optimization in just a second. But let's first address the Amazon keywords. So the keywords in your Amazon ads more specifically, right? The first reason that your ads are not working is because your keywords are wrong. And by wrong, I mean really, really wrong. I spent a lot of time in the updated edition of Truckload talking about the Amazon relevancy and Amazon relevancy score. But the ads really ping in on that, right? So if I'm running, so a lot of times people like to make comparisons, myself included, like to make comparisons to Google AdWords, so Amazon ads and Google AdWords, because Amazon really wants to be that dominant force in terms of ads, the way that Google is. And I know Google makes billions of dollars in their ad sets, and Amazon is probably fairly close to that at this point. But if I were to run an ad on Google, for example, for our website, and I used to run our Google AdWords, and I will probably never do that again just because yikes. But if I were to run a Google ad for our website, and I were to use a keyword, let's say like, I don't know, cheesemaker, because it's close to lunch and I'm kind of hungry. So if I were to use a keyword like cheesemaker or something, right? Just hypothetically, Google would look at that and think, are you high? Mm-hmm. I mean, they literally would not. So my ads would not do well, but they would probably cost me a lot of money in the process, right? I would get no traffic and everything would fail. What's ironic about this conversation, even though that seems like a wild keyword for me just to kind of pluck out of the air, authors do this all the time with their keywords on Amazon. It's amazing to me, right? Authors will throw in keywords like bestseller, really, and then they're spending a lot of money. Although one of the things that I like about Amazon ads is it is really hard to spend your budget. So because the impressions are free, I mean, for the time being, right? It's hard to spend your budget. But the thing that happens is that if Amazon shows your book to 5,000 people, let's say, and your keywords are wrong and they don't click on your ad, Amazon's going to stop showing your ad. And and your book it impacts the long tail of this is that it impacts every aspect of your book. So it impacts the visibility outside of the ad set. Amy, does that make sense? Because I realize I love to nerd out on this stuff. I could go so far down the rabbit hole, which I'm trying not to. But does that make sense?
It absolutely does make sense. I mean, the relevancy, we talk about this a lot and see this is where Amy is making up things because like Penny said, I'm blissfully unaware of a lot of the Amazon ad stuff and by choice, I will say. But truly, we talk about this on a lot of our episodes that you only get one chance, and the Amazon beast is paying attention to everything that's happening around your book. And that's why we caution against throwing your book up there when you're not ready to promote it, when you're not ready to do all the right things, because as soon as it shows up, as soon as you're putting yourself out there on Amazon, Amazon starts judging you.
Yeah.
And especially when you start using their systems like ads and you start adding keywords and start delegating categories, once you start making all those kinds of choices and proactively trying to say, this is what my book is and what it isn't, they're going to judge you even more critically. And it can really work in your favor or it can really work against you.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I want Amy to take this one, because she does the majority of our book page evaluation. She does actually all of the book page evaluations that we do for clients. Amy mentioned Amazon starts judging you. I really want to put that on a t-shirt. I'm sure Amazon would not approve, but whatever. Amazon judges you in a variety of ways. But one of the biggest places that Amazon judges you is on your Amazon retail page.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Everything that you do in Amazon and consumers, I say this a lot for sure. I shouldn't speak for Penny, but consumers are very savvy nowadays.
Yeah.
And brands, big brands are very savvy. I mean, the bar is very, very high for what people expect to see, experience, all the things when they're shopping online. And your book page is no different. So that's why we always harp on doing all the things right and just having a plan, prepping it out in advance, having and this might freak people out a little bit, but a book title that makes sense for your book, a great title, a great subtitle, having a description that that has been finessed over and over again. I think in one episode I said, you should have cried at some point, trying to get it right.
Yeah.
And then gotten somebody else's opinion, if not three somebody else's, making sure that you use all the different fields and features that Author Central gives you to fill out, to make that page more robust and more interesting to read and more eye-grabbing and more assertive and convincing. There's also, we still talk about it now that people still don't use the video element enough. At some point, I keep thinking at some point, authors are finally going to catch on to that. And we're going to see some really cool use of that video feature. Some just really and I think it's going to really put those authors at another level when they start sharing their inspiration, start introducing themselves to readers via video on their page. I mean, that's just so exciting to me. I wish more people would do it. But yeah, there's just so many elements to what happens on your retail page. And we've done countless shows on covers, but I'll say it just because I have to, but y'all know by now, if you listen to us, how we feel about covers. So
yeah, it is really, your retail page. And here's the other piece of this too, though, is that if you're running, and I think we've mentioned this on prior shows, but if you are running any kind of social media ads and they're sending a lot of traffic to your book, but not a lot of people are buying it, that has to do, it could be that you have a bad ad running, and that's possible, but it's more likely your Amazon book page, your retail page. So I cannot tell you how significant that is. The other reason that your ads aren't working is your bids are too low. So there's a theory out there that you should just lowball every bid that Amazon will give you suggested bids and that you should just lowball all of them. Now, I'm not necessarily a fan of saying spend the maximum amount. That's not what I'm saying at all. But I think that if you're going to bid, if the Amazon suggested amount is 47 cents to, let's say, $1.05, and you're going to bid 20 cents, that your ads are not going to work because Amazon's not going to show it. I mean, you may get lucky and, all of a sudden, depending on how the bid and the algorithm, yada, yada, yada. But in the majority of cases, your ads are probably not going to get seen either. And then your ad budget is too low. So one of the things that I emphasize this again, it's almost impossible to spend your entire ad budget, your daily ad budget on Amazon. We have had some cases where authors have spent, their daily budget, but usually they have multiple books. Maybe they're a best-selling author. They're a big name in some sort. Not that, those of you listening aren't big, hugely successful authors, and we hope that you are, but in most cases, you're not going to spend your entire ad budget. So, but you want to have, so I usually recommend starting at $20 a day and starting with 3 ads. Now, when authors hear that $20 a day, I can hear them go quiet on the phone and they start doing math in their head. They're like, oh, this is X amount per month. You're not going to spend that. However, if you feel really uncomfortable with that, then what I recommend is put a budget cap. So create a portfolio and put a budget cap on there. And maybe that's $100 a month or $200 a month or whatever. And that way it's a safeguard just in case, because some of the key, depending on the market that you're in, and this is another thing to kind of be cautious about, sort of back to the keyword, the price of the keywords. I have most recently seen keywords that are costing $39 a click.
Whoa.
Right. I would not personally, if I'm managing ads for our authors, I do not include those in the ad set. Part of the reason is I think $39 is ridiculous for a click. Do you have any idea how many books? You can't earn that money back at $39 a click. And maybe that was an anomaly and something weird that happened on Amazon. I don't know. So I'm not necessarily suggesting that you max out. And if you find that there are keywords that are just really pricey, you don't have to add them. You can just get rid of them. But I really recommend, in terms of your bids and your daily budget, find something that's middle of the road that you're comfortable with. Don't try to lowball Amazon to try and trick the system or whatever, because I got news for you. Amazon's smarter than that. The other one, and Amy does a lot of our book optimizations too. If your book is not optimized properly, and it's interesting because I just did coaching for somebody yesterday, and she was telling me in email, she said, look, I don't think my ads are doing very well. And I said, well, and I looked at her book was in the wrong categories. It was improperly optimized, et cetera. And that's partially, and kind of goes back to what we said early on. If your book is poorly optimized, your ads are not going to do well. Bottom line. I mean, Amy, you see a lot of things on Amazon. You've mentioned this to me before, really funky, weird stuff that shows up in really random, like books that are improperly optimized, that are showing up under bad categories, things like that.
Oh, don't get me started.
I know. I know it.
I know. I will say I have a, maybe unfairly, but I always give the romance genre a hard time because it seems like romance books show up everywhere for everything.
Yeah.
You could look up something like teaching kids about llamas, and all of a sudden it's a sexy man without a shirt, like on the first result. And I'm like, no, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Why is that here? Like, what is happening? Like, why is this book showing up for teaching kids about llamas?
Yeah.
But it is just wild. And you can tell. And what's frustrating about it is that we help a lot of our clients when they run into issues and little things where Amazon will kick stuff back to them. And it just drives me nuts because I see things like that. And it's like, I know there are people out there much more maliciously doing things that they're not supposed to, that are getting away with it,
Yeah.
And then our authors are trying to do all the right things and follow the rules and having to, jump through hoops to get things set up the way they need them to. But yeah, it is amazing how, but that doesn't do well. I guarantee that author's book is not getting, well, I don't know. Who knows? Maybe some of those moms are all of a sudden like, oh, distracted. Like,
Right.
But yeah, it doesn't help at all. It looks poorly on your brand. I will say for sure.
Well, it looks poorly on your brand. And I mean, not to get too far down the rabbit hole, but when you do, and this isn't necessarily to say that you have to bow to the man, right? And just do everything and follow all the rules. I mean, if you've listened to this podcast for any length of time, you know that Amy and I love finding workarounds and breaking rules and doing things differently. But if you're playing fast and loose with your book optimization and just trying to show up in random categories that are really inappropriate to your market, it will impact your relevancy score. And what happens is that Amazon presents your book less and less and less to the right readers because you're going after the wrong readers, and it impacts your ads. So as your ads get shown more, or when they do get shown, they end up costing you a lot of money. So if your ads aren't working, and I would love so much if you're listening, to hear from you in terms of what you face with your Amazon ads. And you notice that in all of this, I never had a conversation about your ad copy, right? I never had first off, the ad copy on Amazon is kind of a joke. You only get so many words. It's really, Amy, you would lose your mind. It's so ridiculous. Right. You don't get a lot of words. And honestly, most people, and this is not me giving you permission to just skip writing the ad copy altogether. Most people look at the cover and the number of reviews, and they skip by the ad copy altogether. So it matters, but it's not necessarily a deal breaker for your ad set. So Again, I'm so excited that Truckload is done. It was so fun to send that off to the editor, and I'm curious as to what. I hope she doesn't come back. I'm saying that it's a train wreck because for those of you who have ever written a book and then rewritten and gone back and made a bunch of changes, I felt like I was on really shaky ground when I sent that off to the editor for for her look-see, but hopefully we'll have that out in the next few months. We're going to have a cover reveal shortly and all the fun things that we do. But if you have had experience with Amazon ads, I'd love to hear from you. We love show ideas. And we love reviews wherever you listen to podcasts. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is Penny Sansevieri and Amy Cornell, and this is the Book Marketing Tips and Author Success Podcast. Bye-bye.